everybody. Welcome back to a new episode of ImperfectChatz, hosted by me here on Imperfect TV Network. And you can find us on all the normal podcast streaming platforms as well. Now, before we go ahead and start talking about cracks and all that stuff that we've got going on, we've got a really packed show here for you today. But before I carry on, I should probably address the elephant in the room. I am on my own for this episode, so I apologize in advance for all the mayhem that is about to commence, as Vic isn't here with me today, because she moved this last week, which is incredible. So if everybody down in the comments could send their best wishes to her and a congratulations for moving, that would be amazing. But that explains why it's me. So let's commence the way we always do, by me talking, or Vic talking, this case, me, about my imperfect moment for this week. Oh my gosh, where shall I begin? I have one which I will talk about. There's a hole in my ceiling which water is dripping through. So hence the title of this episode, Through the Cracks. Like, yeah, there is a literal hole. Small, tiny hole. But it's still a hole. So there is occasionally water coming through the ceiling, which is amazing. But like everything else, just another thing, right? So yeah, there's that. So that's where the lovely title of this episode came from, which is Through the Cracks, Healing Reflections with Jemma Blythe. That will be me then. So through this episode, I am going to be discussing the current outlook when it comes to trauma survival. I will be mentioning Virginia Giuffre's book, Nobody's Girl, as I think that's super, super important to talk about here on ImperfectChatz and on Imperfect TV Network, because it's something which impacts everybody. Because if you haven't come across a trauma survivor yet in your life, there sadly is a chance that you may, because domestic violence cases are on the rise. Say sexual assault cases are also on the rise. And here on Imperfect TV and on ImperfectChatz, we do advocate for trauma survivors, so they have a platform and feel as though they are listened to and heard in the way that they should be. So slight trigger warnings for you out of the way. Check. Let's go on, shall we? So what is it like to be a trauma survivor in today's ever-changing world? It's bleak. It's bleak. It's bleak. It's the way it always has been, but there's more of a spotlight on it at the moment through the whole Jeffrey Epstein, Prince Andrew, him getting his titles removed the way that they always should have been removed. The victims and survivors do deserve justice, and it's the little lights, bit by bit, that are coming through the clouds and the cracks between the clouds. And sometimes we look at justice as being court-led and criminal justice system-led, but sometimes that's not the reason. That's not the only bit of justice. Justice happens in many, many, many different ways. And I think that's a little bit where karma comes in, because I do believe in karma. I think as a trauma survivor, karma is a very challenging thing to believe in. And you have to look at ways in which to be able to process trauma. So let's take it from the top. When the trauma happens to you, your central nervous system goes into high alert. You get that fright or flight mode. You feel as though you are being attacked, you are being manipulated. So when that happens to you, you may notice it, you may not notice it. It's happening at the moment in Coronation Street with Todd and Theo, where there's coercive control taking over, showing that it can happen and does happen in same-sex relationships. Now, many people are saying for Todd to get equally violent with Theo. I'm a strong believer in you can't fight violence with violence. And Theo at the moment is stuck in that very tight web in which abusers trap their victims. And it can be so hard to see that abuse is taking place for the victim. And so what a victim has got to do is they've got to break away, to break the bond of the web. Once you break away, you can breathe. So right now, I want you to breathe in, 2, 3, and out, 2, 3. You can breathe. You can feel like what it feels like to be free. And sometimes in cases like Virginia Giuffre, she had to break away. It was hard. It's hard to break away, but she did. Once you break away, something incredible starts happening. You piece together all the little bits that didn't really make sense before. And once they are pieced together, you start to build up a picture of what was happening around you, a picture of what your life looked like to others. And that's where the anger starts seeping in. Now, people are told not to use anger or frustration or anything like that. Anger is the catalyst. Anger is something which needs to be soaked in, to be bathed in, because that is your strength. When you breathe in that anger and you start to use it in the right way, it's incredible. You discover a new passion, a new hobby, a new lust for life. So that's what I mean when I say that justice comes in so many different forms. Very often, all too often, I think, people rely on the criminal justice system, but there's not enough emphasis on us advocating as trauma survivors for ourselves. So there's that. And I think for trauma survivors, looking at the Epstein survivors and them speaking so eloquently and bravely on Capitol Hill showed just how much courage survivors can have, not as a one, but as a group. And I think at the moment there needs to be more emphasis on women supporting other women, people supporting other people who have been through trauma. Don't only look at it as they could be lying. Oh, she could be lying. Oh, he could be lying. Because if we were like that, we wouldn't believe anybody now, would we? So take a step back. Why would somebody who's been through trauma lie about going through something so heinous and it hurting them? Why? What have they to gain from that? Because I can tell you right now, they have nothing to gain from that. So at the moment, for survivors, it's bleak, but we're starting to see people come around and people advocating in the way that they should be for survivors. And we're getting to see people actually talk about these things in the mainstream, the way it needs to be. Not every day, I'm not saying that, but people need to start talking. Our voices are so powerful, But once they're taken away, or we decide not to use them, or we think we're too controversial, so we stay muted, that can hurt us even more in the long run. So use your voice. You have a platform. On social media, it's a safe space by and large. But you have a voice, use it in the right ways. Find your passion, get to grips with what lights your soul up, whether that's helping others, whether that's doing a new community project, whether that's writing for endless hours a day. Just do it. Do that something which ignites you and makes you feel as though you are accomplishing something, other than just getting up in the morning, because you are accomplishing something by doing that as well. Now, what's next on my agenda to discuss? Okay. I have a journaling prompt for you, and there's going to be about 3 others through this episode. So grab your notebook and pen, and if I remember while I'm editing this, I will insert a clip from a previous episode in here of ImperfectChatz for you to listen to and enjoy. Woo! Okay, so where we look at our own imperfections, roast the hell out of our own in a funny way.
Mhm.
Okay?
Yeah. Let's go.
So I'll start off
Okay. Let's go.
because I think I've got
Let's
one.
hear it.
I
Let's
mean,
hear
it's
it.
taken me half an hour to come up with it, but hey,
What, during this podcast? You thought about it during the podcast?
see? Our brains are weird.
I'm not gonna lie.
Mm-hmm.
I just thought of one within like 5 minutes.
Go on then. You do yours first.
No, you do yours first. I'll wait. You go, Dom.
So mine is, I don't need a Halloween mask because I've got acne all year. Yay! Go on then.
How can I say it? Oh my god. I'm trying to think of ways to do it funny
Yeah.
without. I know what I'm gonna say. Like,
Yeah. Just say it.
so, you know, people use the megaphone, right? It's a bit pointless considering I can't hear anyway, so it's a bit pointless. I can't hear you. You know, I'm deaf. Yay!
I love that because it gets us both thinking about imperfections in so many different ways. And they're the things that people pick up on and occasionally call us out for. But if we actually own them, the power's not theirs.
It's not, no. Like, there's so many things that aren't perfect. Like, I'm sure I'm 4'8". Like,
I
that's
mean,
not.
you're actually smaller than me.
That's not hard to beat, is it? I'm smaller than anyone. But at least I can get away with kids' shoes. You know, no tax, you know. It's a win-win situation here. So I have got that. No one's perfect.
No.
Like, the thing is, when I say to people I'm deaf, and they look at me like, you're not old. Like, people associate deafness with old people. And that's a signal that needs to change. It's really infuriating.
Okay, so journaling prompt 1. What's one small thing you've done this week that proves you're still here, still surviving? Okay. Another thing that's popped into my head and gets spoken about a lot is knowing your truth and what your truth actually is. Knowing your truth is so important to figuring out who you are, knowing what you would like from life, knowing what you can give as yourself, as your true self. And a lot of the time, explaining our truth and voicing it, even writing it down, can be hard. But I was reminded of one thing this week, and that is the fact that our morals exist and they are quite often passed down from our families, passed down through the many, 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 many generations. And it's in that which our truth and our light rules, I suppose you could say, that we always abide by subconsciously, perhaps without even realizing. And this week, it was the anniversary of my grandma's death. She was so inspirational to me. Her attitude, her feistiness and just life for life itself. And it reminded me just how much of herself she always gave to everyone. And there were times when I'd lost my voice. I felt like I couldn't speak. I felt like I didn't know who I was. So when it came to the anniversary of her death, I was sat thinking a lot about the morals that she abided by. And one of the things that she always said was look after number one. That has rang through my mind and my brain so much through all the abuse, through the grief. And I thought, that's why I journal. I journal to look after number one, because when you journal, your brain can go down all kinds of different paths and weave through all kinds of different memories and strange thoughts that go through your head. I can remember one night I was journaling and I was thinking about reincarnation. And all the way through my life, I've had seemingly very bad luck. And I ended up thinking, right, okay, well, knowing my luck, I'll get reincarnated as a shark. I will eat bad fish or whatever and die through food poisoning, or I will eat a human and get killed. So I thought, right, okay, that's not going to end good. The only right path for me is to get reincarnated as a cat and come back fat, lazy. Yay. But that's what kinds of processes you can let your mind go on when you journal, and there's no right or wrong. And I think as we grow up, we're told right, wrong, right, wrong, right, wrong for everything that we do. There's no in between when we grow up. And I think then when we get handed a blank page that says, hey, write your thoughts and feelings on this, our brains just go, what? Why? Huh? I've been told that that's the wrong thing to do. But now some crazy woman called Jemma Blythe is telling me, well, hang on, that is the right thing to do. What am I supposed to do? Well, right. There really is no right and wrong when it comes to journaling. It's there to help you process and to express yourself in a healthier way, which I think is just incredible. And if you piece things together like that, it really helps you to process and to get to grips with everything that's happened through your life. And when you keep the journals and flick through them year on year, you will be able to see just how much of yourself is in those books. And then you have something that nobody else has, which is an in-depth look on your life. And I think there's something quite poetic about it. So, like I did last time, if I remember while I'm editing this, there will be a clip of a previous episode of ImperfectChatz. Now, let me know if there is. I'm kidding, I'll be able to see. Lots of imperfection.
There is indeed lots of imperfections. Imperfection is life.
Just flipping over my notes. Bit of ASMR for those that are listening and not watching this. So, how many first times can we come up with?
Well, we've done job. Okay,
job's one.
First time you went out driving by yourself.
First time driving by yourself.
First time you went to the shops and paid for items by yourself.
So true.
The first time you done cleaning the house. First time you unloaded the dishwasher.
Yeah.
Loaded the dishwasher. First time you had an argument with your parents or siblings.
Yeah.
If you've got siblings out there, but I know you don't have any siblings.
No.
I've got siblings and we had our moments of fighting when we was younger.
I can understand that.
First time you went on holiday, first time you went on a train, plane, any transportation, first time you used your own laptop.
First time walking.
First time walking. Which, to be fair, are you going to remember your first time walking? You started walking when you was a toddler?
Well, it's still a first time thing though, isn't it?
It is, but then again, if you had a rehab, go through rehab because, legs
That's
Well,
so
after an
true.
operation or something like that, I guess, yeah, you're gonna start walking over again and learn new things. So yeah, first time you cut down a tree, we'll learn them all. Oh, there's so many.
Yeah. It's only when you start listing them
First time
do
you wore
you actually
glasses, first time you brush your
yeah,
teeth, first time you've been engaged, first time you ended a relationship. Oh my god, there's so many.
yeah. I mean, it's only when you start listing them do you realize how many
Mm,
firsts there actually are throughout life.
yeah.
It's just so weird when actually you take that time just to actually list a load of things.
First time getting married.
Yeah.
First time you bought yourself a phone. I remember when I had my first phone when I was 13.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm just,
it's mental. Mental.
yeah, it is.
Like, the phone was small. It wasn't a great big massive size like a brick. The phone was like
No.
they big. Button.
Yeah. Yeah. My God. And then all the different blooming typing languages and
BRB.
all that.
Be right back.
And PSML.
If you know any what that means, write it in the comments below.
Yeah. Please do, because I think we might have forgotten a few.
Probably. But yeah, there's like so many short languages we had to use, like B and then the one before as before.
Yeah.
Like, we obviously had to shorten it because obviously you have to pay per text. So you want to cram much as you want in one text message before sent. Oh my god.
Oh my God. Yeah. It's
I'm
so.
Gemma.
Okay. Journaling prompt 2. If your heart had a voice, what would it be saying to you right now? Okay. Let's move on to mental health. It's something that's talked about on awareness days and on campaigns and things like that. But what happens when there's no awareness days and no campaigns? Crickets. Crickets. And when there's crickets, it kind of falls back into the way that mental health has always been, where it feeds into a stigma in that it's weak to talk about mental health. It's weak to discuss therapy. It's weak to discuss counseling. It's weak when you appear as emotionless towards somebody. You're weak when you set boundaries. But let me tell you this, there is a strength in talking about your mental health. There is a strength in reaching out and saying, coffee, mark, break, question mark. There's a strength in that because you are saying to somebody else, you are not alone. And there's even more of a strength when you're saying that to somebody who recognizes when it's not a campaign day, when it's not an awareness day, because you're saying that to somebody because you care about them. And there's times when we all think, I wish I'd have done more when somebody suffers a mental health crisis, or I wish I'd have been there for them, or the people that crawl out of the woodwork when you know somebody who's gone through a mental health crisis. But I think we all know that one person who appears so strong for everybody else that we think automatically that they don't need any help because they're there for everybody else. There's a danger in that because what happens when they're not there for everybody else? What happens if you can't talk to them one day? What happens if they aren't there? And all it would have taken would be a phone call, a text, a coffee, a walk, a chat to listen. And that's the thing. That's the thing. So many of us are scared of listening. You listen to things on the news which are harmful. Break away from it. Give yourself permission to break away from that. You don't have to listen to that. You can just switch the off button on your TV, on your speaker, on your phone. Okay. So here are some tips for anybody going through a hard time at the moment. And these are things that you could do today. Walk outside in barefoot. Don't ask, just do it. It's grounding. Notice how the ground feels underneath your feet. That's one. Two, listen to some music. Listen to some music that makes you feel good, like you want to jump up and down, like you want to scream and sing at the top of your lungs. Do it. Do it, do it, do it. Because there's so much power in that. There's so much frustration that you can get out of yourself by doing that. Carry something in your pocket, like stones, like crystals, like keys, like something soft and squidgy that you can hold on to and squeeze whenever you need. That's something else which grounds you and keeps you in the moment and away from flashbacks or memories or any of the harmful stuff that you've been through potentially. Fourth thing, write. Journal. I will always say that. Journal. Because it's there for you. It's something which is constant, that is always going to be there right when you need it. You can just reach for it and grab a pen and just let your mind wander. And five, that will always be exercising. Just enjoy breathing, stretching, walking, noting down, seeing 5 things that you can see, hear, smell, touch. I wouldn't say taste because tasting things outside doesn't always end well. But use your senses. Take in the things around you. Give yourself time away from these things because life is precious, life is short, and it seemed appropriate for me to talk about mental health in this episode because of Virginia Giuffre, because of what she went through. If somebody had listened, if somebody had advocated, if somebody had given her justice when she needed it, and I'm not talking about a payoff, I'm talking about words. Words mean so much more than a payoff when you're in that situation, when you know what has happened to you is right, when you know that your memories are correct and everybody else just stands around wanting to invalidate them constantly. Make sure that when somebody tells you that they've been through something like that or something similar, that you listen, you don't just jump for action at the first possible turn and take all the choices away from them. So, yeah, it can be hard to talk about mental health, but we need to be having more discussions around mental health and that just aren't centered around awareness days and campaigns because it's a huge, huge health problem that everybody faces. It doesn't discriminate, and we can be the difference in somebody else's lives. So if I remember when I'm editing, I will put in another segment of ImperfectChatz, previous episode in journaling prompt 3. What's one gentle thing that you can do for your mind today? Okay, let's go on to talk about silver linings and the light coming through even in the darkest of times. Slight hint there. But it's true. Light does come through, and sometimes we do have to search for it to realize that it's there. And sometimes we might forget that it's there. Other times we might not, but sometimes it can seem so dark around us. Things can seem like they're piling up. And when things pile up, our brains seem like a pressure cooker. I want to tell you something. I don't believe in signs. When I was thinking about my grandma the other day, and my dad more often, I noticed something. White feathers. They've always reminded me that somebody is there with me. I don't find it creepy. I find it a comfort. And a lot of the time, we're remembered about the dark times that surround us. But what if we program our brains and our minds to look for the light in different situations? Yes, I may have a hole in my ceiling in another room in the house. And does it piss me off greatly? Yes, it does. But do I still have my life? Yes. Do I see sunlight every morning? Yes. Do I see the moon at night? Yes. Is there something that I could take from that? Yes, there is. Because there's always something brighter around the next corner. And so much of what we take in is taught to teach us, is there to teach us that there's dark around us. When in actual fact, if we went round believing that there was dark around us all the time, would we let any happiness in at all? Probably not. Probably not. And I think that's something that's important for us all to remember, that there is light and there should be light and we should allow light in more than we do, because without the light, we'd all be suffering from crippling depression and in bed and wondering how we were going to continue to the next day. But we can, because there is time. Even though life is short, find the fun, find the spontaneity. Even if you can't afford to go out all the time, have fun with the people that you're closest to. Invite them to places, have new experiences, challenge yourself to new things, because without experiencing new things, how are you going to know what you don't like? So, with that being said, if I remember through the edit, there will be another episode, well, a previous episode clip from ImperfectChatz inserted in. One thing that I'm going to invite our listeners and viewers to do now is comment anything below that you found that is AI that you were shocked to find that was AI.
There'd be quite a few. Even photos.
Yeah.
You see on
Yeah.
Instagram, like a lot of that is AI.
Mm-hmm. I mean, if somebody looks plastic on Instagram, they're probably going to be AI.
Mm-hmm.
And another thing
Yeah.
is these really weird videos where you just get speech and no blinking in their eyes.
That's how you can tell. Also, it'll actually say AI generated
Yes.
in the bottom tag, you know what I mean?
Well, now it
So,
should do.
it should do, yeah.
But yeah, it's this whole thing of like social media and the AI crossover is a debate that could go on for weeks, because there's
Yes.
so much now that goes on underneath that topic. And I think it's even more important to highlight the fact that people should stop chasing perfection online,
Yes.
because it
They
doesn't
should.
exist.
No.
All it does is limit, box people in, and create an atmosphere where everybody is the same.
It does. And you should be your own apologetic self.
Yeah,
And you should be proud of that.
yeah. And you should be allowed to celebrate your funniest and stupidest Instagram versus reality moments, as I'm now going to invite you to leave in the comments for me and Vic to go throughout the next fortnight. So each one of those is getting more and more ridiculous. So, journaling prompt 4. Where in your life are you starting to notice small signs of healing, even if it's not complete? Where in your life are you starting to notice small signs of healing, even if it's not complete? And that concludes today's very weird and wonderful episode of ImperfectChatz. I hope that you've enjoyed it. And please, Vic, come back next week. So today we have covered what survival is like for survivors these days. We've covered what your truth looks like to you. And we've also talked about mental health and why it is important to discuss, even when it's not on an awareness day or a campaign. Then we've looked at what it's like to find the light even when you have a holy ceiling. So, all that's left for me to say after this wonderful episode is like, subscribe, share, and join the Imperfect fam. You can find us on social media down in the description below. And if you have any comments, please leave them below in the comments on YouTube and Spotify, and me and Vic will go through them one by one. So, thank you so much for joining me, and now I'll roll the bloody titles.
Imperfectly, we grow step by step. We let the pain go. In this space, we heal. You know, it's all about the journey, not the